Hello, namaste, sabubona, bawoni, marhaban to all our brothers and sisters who have joined us from across the world. This is WTP Podcasts, and it is the teenagers from India, Nigeria, and Oman who are your hosts today. Today, we have a truly inspiring conversation with a global icon, Mr. Naidu. As a legendary anti-apartheid activist and former cabinet minister in President Nelson Mandela's government, Mr. Naidu has spent his life fighting for social justice and human dignity. In this episode, we dive deep into the lessons from the fight against apartheid and the role of young people in shaping change today, and also how global economic and technological changes are shaping our world. Before we jump into our discussion, let's hear from Mr. Naidu himself.
Well, I am Naidu. I'm South African. My great grandmother left India in the south of India in the 1860s to come to work in South Africa on the sugar farms as an indentured laborer, which was just a very sophisticated name for a slave. So she was a slave. And I am the fourth generation to be born after her. She arrived. So I am, as you know, born in South Africa. It was under a racist regime called apartheid. When I was young, we were discriminated against, and I will go through that in greater detail in the interviews when you ask your questions. But racism is something that was institutionalized in South Africa because of the color of our skin. So that racism still exists in the world. And of course, I became a freedom fighter. I joined Nelson Mandela. I became a leader of the trade union movement. I became a minister in Mandela's government. And today I am an elder. I'm here to talk to you, younger generations, about how do we build a better world, a safer world, a happier world.
Thank you, sir. And now, let's meet the hosts of this discussion.
Good evening, sir. I'm Subhalakshmi from Muscat, Oman, currently studying grade 10. Thank you so much for joining us for this podcast. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Namaste, everyone. I am Sanchit Kumar Sharma, a grade 12 student from Bharav High School, Jaipur, Rajasthan, India, and an MP at the 4th World Team Parliament. Sir, I'm thrilled to be your host today.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here with you all.
Warm greetings to everyone tuning in. I'm Vaidi Parik, a student in grade 10 joining from Lagos, Nigeria, and currently the Member of Parliament at the 4th World Teen Parliament. I'm super excited to be part of this amazing conversation today because it's about courage, leadership, and youth. And honestly, sir, it's amazing to get the opportunity to actually have a conversation with you and get to know you.
Thank you so much. And it's my honor to be here today and talking to young people. You are the future. I represent the past. And so, what we're having today is an authentic intergenerational conversation about how to find solutions to the problems that we face in the world that protect the heritage that is your birthright. So, let's go ahead with the questions you have.
So, without wasting any further time, let's start with the question. So, sir, when people hear your name, they think of the big things like unions, Mandela, global justice. But let me start differently. When you wake up in the morning today, what gives you joy?
Well, that's a very good question because, I'm 70 years old today. And the first thing I do when I get up, I thank the divine that I'm still breathing, I'm alive. And then I get out of bed and I do an hour of yoga and meditation. And that helps me for the 23 other hours of the day. So I love waking up and hearing the sound of birds, hearing the sound of my grandchild that you just saw, to hear the sound of the mountains and the laughter in the world. And every day is a chance to be grateful, grateful to have this life, grateful to breathe, and grateful to experience this mystery of life. So that's what makes me happy every day. It makes me happy to speak to y'all.
I'm sure you must have had other conversations with young teenagers and young generations. So, if you were suddenly transported into our shoes, a teenager in 2025, what battles do you think you'd be fighting? Would it the social media, or controlling your screen time, or climate change, mental health, AI, or something maybe completely different?
Well, I was born under apartheid, so my birth was treated as a crime because of the color of my skin. And millions of South Africans lost their homes. I was 4 years old when I was kicked out of my home. So I didn't have a choice. Politics chose me. I didn't choose politics. It was my destiny and it was a fate, because there was a devotion. We were millions of young people prepared to die for the freedom, just like millions of people in India were prepared to die fighting for freedom from the British Raj. And many did die. So, yes, when I was 16, I was inspired by people like Steve Biko, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mandela. Yeah, and I'd look at my first experience and we were brutalized. But what when I saw my mother was always graceful. She was always open, calm, patient, and even when white people insulted us and brutalized us, she was always calm. So she impressed me. And my father never got the job he wanted because the best jobs are reserved for whites. So, yes, what would I do if I was 16 today? Well, I will be involved in the same things, fighting for social justice, fighting for ecological justice, fighting for dignity of labor in a world where people think that we are living to make money. We're not living to make money. Money is just an energy, a currency that allows us to live and to exchange things with each other, to buy things we need, but also exchange our labor for some things. But of course, what is happening in the world today is money has become like God. We worship money. We stop worshiping nature. We are part of nature, but we have now apart, we are now apart from nature. So yes, I think that we are threatening the whole ecology of the world. And we have no planet B. This is the only planet we have. Some crazy people think we can go and live on Mars. I hope we never succeed, because imagine if they go there and they destroy another planet. So I think what we have to ask you as young children is to find your voice, to find your struggle, to find the future you want. Is your future just about money? Is it just an illusion? Is it a Maya? Is it something that is like a darkness coming to take over our divine spirit? So if you go back to your own history, go back to Lord Shiva, go back to the prophets of Africa, you go back to indigenous wisdom, and they all teach us that actually to live is to rise above your mind, become more awareness, to be compassionate, to help people, solidarity. This is what we consider great in people like Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Mandela, that you feel when you are in their presence that you understand how big humanity is, what the potential of humanity is, and the fact that we live in order to be learn, to understand, to become unravel this pain and this suffering and find solutions for the world that we are living in, not to drown in them, not to become in despair, not to become depressed, sometimes even suicidal. That's the only way we can deal with it. The way out is the way in, through meditation, yoga, prayer, walking in nature, playing in the woods, dancing, listening to good music. This is what makes life.
Yes, so it's amazing to see that you've still got the fire in you, and it's truly inspirational. I think you have really reminded us that our generation needs to look beyond the money mindset and to
Yes.
find the real purpose, to balance, and the wisdom that we have inherited from our cultures and our deep-rooted traditions.
Absolutely. And every tradition is important. Now, you remember in colonization, in slavery, there was a dominant culture that tried to crush us and said our belief systems are not right. Like even when they came to India, they came to Africa, they were brutal. In places like North America and South America, they committed genocides against people, you know, and it's still happening today, where because someone is not from a Western orientation or understanding or color of skin, then they are seen as savages. This is what they did to us. And if you start to think that someone else's culture is savage or primitive, then you have not understood life. Because God has many faces, and all roads, all faiths will lead to the same God. It's one source. And God doesn't look like us. How do we know he looks like us? He may look like a grasshopper. Who tells you that God? You saw God? So God is energy. It's a beautiful energy that is full of love or full of forgiveness. When you start to hear some religious people saying you get punished by God, they do not understand God. God never punishes anyone. You yourself have to come down as a soul into this body. You choose your parents. You choose the life you want to have so that you can learn lessons. It's like going to school. You go through grades. What lessons do you have to learn in this life? To be more considerate, to be more compassionate, to be more forgiving. Isn't that what we admire in people? When we think of Gandhi, what do we think? Of grace. We think of Mother Teresa. We think of sacrifice. We think of Mandela. He went to jail for 27 years because he wanted his people to be free. These are the people we respect. We don't have to respect people that made money, usually in terrible ways, because they had to exploit someone. They had to destroy nature. So if we go back to our ancestors, when they looked at the forest, they saw the spirit of the forest. They looked at the ocean, they saw the spirit of the ocean. They looked at the rivers, they saw the spirit of the river, the spirit of the land. They didn't look at the forest and say, there's timber, we must cut it down to make money. You understand that? So this is what we have become now. Capitalism has taken the soul out of our humanity. And that is why we're having so many young people. They do not trust governments. They do not trust the United Nations. They do not trust business. They do not even trust people that are in unions. Because these people always talk about themselves. They are not servant leaders. Mandela was a servant leader. He realized to become a president, it wasn't to be a big and powerful man and make money. It was to serve his people. So did Gandhi. What did Gandhi say? He had to go and live in a village, and you make your own cloth and you wear a dhoti. Doesn't mean because you wear a dhoti you're less important than the Queen of England. He went to meet the Queen of England in his dhoti. Why are we ashamed of what our traditions are? We want to dress like Westerners. Why? Because we're not sure about who we are. We don't have a root. And when you have no root, can a tree survive? A tree will die with no roots. Therefore, your roots are important, and every culture has roots. If I go to Nigeria, I meet with people who are the Uruba tribe. They have huge levels of gods, very similar to Hinduism. They have respect for nature. So everywhere you go, indigenous people, they look at nature and they see God. God gives us the air to breathe. Try to stop breathing now. Hold your nose and close your mouth. You think, try it. You can't. You see, because your soul is telling you, no, I still want to live. But to live, you have to understand. So to understand, it means you've got to find it in your heart, not your head. Because your head has got the ego. So this is the most important thing of becoming a leader. You got to get rid of the ego that tells you, I have power, I have a blue lights that are, when I'm driving, I got a lot of armored cars and policemen around me. You see, that doesn't make a leader. That separates a leader from the people. And a leader that is not rooted in the people is like a tree without any roots. That's why the world is in crisis today. You have leaders up there that don't know who they are, don't know why they are here, don't know what their purpose is, and they are all confused in their mind, and they behave like 2-year-olds. When you have a child and they have a tantrum, that's how these leaders behave. Like they got tantrums all the time. So these are not leaders that will save the world. These are leaders that should become grandfathers. Some of them are so old, they don't even know what a cell phone is. They don't know what WhatsApp is, and they don't know what social media is. They don't know anything about technology. But today I'm talking to you through technology. I can see your faces in real time. I come from an era where there was a telex machine. We never were able to do this when I was your age. It didn't exist. So technology is powerful, but it's not a god. There are some people that spend all their time on the screen. You know what the screen does for children? It destroys your brains. It becomes an addiction. And then you lose creativity, you lose interest in life. All you want is an addiction. It's like taking a drug. I need the screen, I need the screen, I need the screen. And what are we producing? We're producing people that don't look around them and see the beauty of nature. They're looking at their screen all the time. And then they're unhappy because it is killing your brains. So I think that here we've got to stop that. We have beautiful nature around us. We have beautiful experience around us, even if it's a tough experience. And sometimes your parents get unhappy with you. It's a tough, sometimes very painful. But you learn from there are boundaries in life. How do I respect myself? How do I respect my parents? How do I respect elders? How do I respect nature? This is the question. Life is not about just driving a fancy car, changing your phone because a new phone comes out and you like the color of what the phone looks like. You see, this is a disposable culture, and this is the curse of capitalism. It's forced us into a situation where we don't have things that are made to last. They must break down because someone has to make more profit. That can't be a world that Mother Nature wants, because we are now reaching a point where we are taking so much out of Mother Nature that she's not able to recover ourselves. And when Mother Nature dies, we all die. And not just us as humans, there are 10 million other species of life on this planet. So we have to be very careful today to question everyone, to question everything that we do, question our parents, but in a disciplined way, in a respectful way, question our leaders. No one can tell you they know what they are doing today because no one knows what they are doing. Look at the world, look at the war, look at what's happening in Gaza, the murder of children, of mothers, of bombing of hospitals and schools and creches and journalists being assassinated. Is that the world we want? No. So we have to stop the wars. We have to stop this military industrial complex that is now controlling our world. And they want more wars because it's a profit for them. It's just like pharmaceutical sector. It's not that medicine is a very important right of all of our people. But if you look at what Big Pharma is doing today, when medicine first came, Florence Nightingale, and then it came to Madame Curie, and it was a Hippocratic oath. Now you must learn about the Hippocratic oath. It is the foundation of medicine. It's about human well-being and health. It was about doing no harm to anyone. And it was about you're not making money, you are serving humanity. But if you look at Big Pharma today, look at the salaries these CEOs earn, tens of millions of dollars. So they would like us to be patients taking their pills and their injections from the time we're born to the time we die. That can't be what medicine is. And then they don't want you to, the principle of the Hippocratic oath on which the medical profession is based is informed consent. If they want to put something in your body, you have a right to ask questions. Why? What will be the negative implications? So even with this debate around vaccines, vaccines are very good, but this latest vaccines, there are many questions. I have my own sister and my own family members that have had heart attacks, that have had cancer, that never had cancer before. So yes, we have a right to ask questions because we must be informed about what we put in our body. And the food that they are feeding us in the supermarkets today is full of chemicals. It is causing diseases in us, to which the pharmaceutical sector, like, if you take Bayer They bought Monsanto. Monsanto, if you listen to Vandana Shiva, she will tell you the history of Monsanto. Monsanto. It was making bombs, napalm. And now they say they're making fertilizer, same chemicals to make bombs they're now putting in the ground. What is that doing? It is killing a living earth. And so what happens when the earth dies and the microorganisms die? The food dies. So when you eat the food from them, it's got no calories. It's got no nutrients. So it's empty calories. So what happens is the soil is sick, the food is sick, you become sick, and your environment becomes sick. So if you look at it, this can't be that we allow these people to poison our soil and then poison us. That's why we had the United Nations, but the United Nations now is weakened because governments are not cooperating, because governments want to continue poisoning the soil and they want to continue poisoning us so that someone can make profit by selling us what they call medicine. This is not what we are building a world for. It can't be a fair world, a safer world that a Mandela stood for, a Martin Luther King stood for, or that a Gandhi stood for.
Definitely, sir. By your response, I remember a poem written by Pablo Neruda. He said, "Let us all count to 12 and wait and stop, and let all these forebodings stop." So I totally relate to that, and you spoke absolutely correct in today's scenario.
Yes, I think that Pablo Neruda was a very powerful poet. I read a lot of his love poems because he spoke a lot about love. And it's unconditional love. This is the basis of our humanity, that we have an unconditional love for everything. But to find that love, you have to go deep inside of yourself to know who you are and why you are here. But our education system doesn't teach us that. All it teaches us is to go and find a job. And today, what happens is the schooling system is collapsed. It's like the old video cassettes. Do you see video cassettes anywhere? It's disappeared. Our education system is also disappearing because it's training you for jobs that will not exist, because the technology revolution is moving so fast that it is overtaking the economy. Just now, machines will be doing a lot of the work that we are doing. So when machines are doing, what are we going to do? You've trained for many years, but I don't need drivers now because just now we will be driverless cars. You know, many jobs today in the mines and down is done by machines. You go 3 kilometers into the earth. They use machines. So we have to think, in your generation, what will you be doing in the future? What laws do we need? What institutions do we need? How do we build social cohesion? How do we keep ourselves busy? What are the skills you need to learn? Right now, I'm teaching my grandson of 6 years old how to grow vegetables and how to make compost. So we went the other day and we collected cow dung, because there are cows that are on the fields out here. We collected the cow dung and we made organic compost with the cow dung, and we put it down on the ground, and then we're going to cover it up with a sheet, and then it's going to, over the next 6 months, it will start to make compost in the soil. So he's learning that. It's more important for him to learn that than learn how to play Minecraft on a Game Boy. What is that going to help him when one day the food runs out and he's got no food? At least now he knows where his potato comes from, because he had to go and dig it out. He had to cut the tomatoes. He had to cut the lettuce. He saw it growing up from a seed. This is the things we should be teaching our children today. That's why there's a new movement starting around the world, and it started in India. It's called deschooling. It means preparing you for the world that is coming, because there's going to be a collapse coming soon. A big collapse of what we think is civilization, which is normal. It's like changing seasons. You are now going into into autumn in India. So what does it happen? It's a change of a season. Everything is changed. You see what nature does when it goes into autumn? It loses its leaves. The leaves fall to the ground and they become compost. Mother Earth takes everything that it was falling on the ground, including us when we die, and it makes compost to make the next thing. So this is what we have. Then what happens in autumn and winter? It goes inside. It goes into hibernation. Hibernation is meditation. You see how all this works. If we look at nature, we learn more than from any textbook. Just observe. Listen to the birds. When a bird comes, think about the bird. Each bird has a meaning. If an eagle comes, it's bringing you a message. What is the message? It says, rise above where you are and look at the bigger picture, because then you have an eagle eye. You see? If the elephant comes, what is it coming? It is memory. Take Lord Ganesh. He removes the obstacles because he has a memory of how the problem starts. So you see, when we go back to our ancestors, they understood this. Now we are so educated, we have forgotten all the lessons they taught us. And that is the tragedy, because you become a poor photocopy of someone in the West. And you don't want to be a poor photocopy of anyone. You must be original, unique. We all are unique. Okay?
Thank you so much, sir. I really love the part where you said, you were teaching your grandson to grow vegetables. It's a beautiful reminder that to know what real education means. We also have a little area, actually, the place where we live, the compound. It's mostly concrete, and there's just this small circle of soil there. But we've tried to grow a lot of plants and all. So I think what we should learn is that the future isn't just about new technology and updates and all that, but it's also about rediscovering the old wisdom, the culture, and again living in harmony with each other.
We've covered a lot of crucial topics up to now. Time for a quick change of pace. Here is our rapid fire round with Mr. Naidu. Let's begin. My first question is, if apartheid had never existed, what do you think you would have become?
I think I was born a rebel, so I will always challenge whatever system was oppressing us.
So, do you believe a third world war is possible in the next 20 years?
Uh, if you all do not stand up as a new generation and say, not in our name, there will be a third world war. There will be civilizational contact, you know, collapse. If we look at the last world war, 60 million people were murdered. So, with all the weapons we have in the world today, can you imagine what the devastation would be? But if we fight for peace and we all stand up and say we refuse to be part of your wars, then they can't go and fight a war. Who are they going to fight with? So I think it depends on your generation saying no to war. When you go to your campuses, you go to your schools, they say no to war, yes to peace.
So, what motivated you to write Fighting for Justice, and who did you hope that would listen to it and get influenced by it?
When I left government, I was a bit disappointed in my comrades. And my wife, who's a writer, Lucy Paget, she's written 10 books now. She said, why don't you write a story? Because it's therapy. It'll help you get over your mourning, your disappointment in people. And so I started writing. I never thought I would publish it, but now I did publish it. So it was a form of therapy. And then I wrote a second book called Change, Organizing Tomorrow Today. That one I thought very carefully is a letter to your generation saying, this is how much I believe in y'all. And so go and find your voice, find your agency, find your destiny. And the third book I wrote with my wife together is a book on my spiritual journey. It's called In Love and Revolution. It's at the moment just in French, but when it's translated and printed in English, I'm sure you will all have copies as well.
President Mandela used rugby as a tool for unity in South Africa. What do you think is the next cultural force that can unite divided societies?
I think sports is a great, great sport. It's a great way to unite people because people get enthusiastic. Look at cricket matches in India. It's like soccer matches in South Africa or rugby matches in South Africa. And so it's a it's on the field that we start to understand that it's not just about competition and who wins. Even if you lose, you can lose with honor. And I think sports is a great way to unite people. I think culture and music and tradition is now emerging as a bigger culture that will unite us. It also will create many livelihoods for young people, digital creators, but not creating apps that are useless and only benefit the people that have money. Must be apps that must develop the ability of someone who is young, living in a slum, to be able to pull themselves up and be inspired, see a role model, see a way in which they can build a livelihood for themselves. So I think that, as we're moving forward, we are going to have to think very carefully about jobs, and we have to think about society, because societal cohesion is collapsing at the moment. So I think one of the most important things to do is about how to build sanctuaries where communities can get together and you start to build a consciousness, awareness. How do we work with the soil? How do we work with nature? How do we work with water? How do we build little communities that are able to exist even if things fall apart? And these communities all relate to each other. It's a whole way of really looking at politics that is coming now. Smaller communities where become self-sufficient in food, self-sufficient in energy, and self-sufficient in meeting their needs to live and work and to play and to educate themselves and to bring health.
That was a great rapid fire round. Now, let's turn back to our discussion.
Sir, so back then you built movements in lectures, halls, and hostels. So today students try to build movements on Instagram and TikTok. What's lost and what's gained in this change?
Well, I think TikTok and social media are important, but it's not organizing. If you want to organize, you got to go and sit down with people under the tree, you know, and you got to talk. You got to understand them. You can't arrive in a Rolls Royce and expect poor people to sit and listen to you, because you are coming there like a tourist. Okay? So if we think about it like that, you've got to humble yourself. You see, Gandhi, when he led the Salt March, he couldn't dress up in a suit, and he didn't go in a car. He walked. You see, today people say, I'm an organizer, I'm an activist, I'm going to go organize a community. And then they go in the community, they talk down to people. Now, when you go and talk with people, you talk with people, and the most important thing is don't talk. Ask them, how is your life? How are you living? How are you raising a family with less than $2 a day when you can't even buy anything in the shop with $2 a day? So don't think that they are empty vessels. You see, you got to have respect for the poorest. They teach you the most, and it doesn't come from a textbook or university. So I learned my most important lessons listening to workers in factories, in hostels, who were brutalized by apartheid. They taught me. My mother taught me, simple things about devotion, about when she lit the lamp, or when she prayed to Saraswati or Lord Ganesh or Lord Shiva. She explained that, this is about service to society. This is what she said. The way in which you live your religion is how you serve people, not only people that belong to your religion, people that belong, or your tribe or your family, how you serve the whole society, even animals, not just humans, even the non-humans. And so we have got to a point in our lives where we think that human beings are the most important. We're not the most important. There are trillions of planets out there and stars. We think we are the only life. That will be so arrogant of us to think we are the only life. Now, the sages that sat in the Himalayas or sat in the African mountains like Kilimanjaro and practiced indigenous belief systems all knew there was life all over the cosmos, and that the higher life have even been in touch with us, other intelligent life. In fact, we are quite primitive as human beings. We think we are sophisticated, but we're actually very primitive. So if you don't sit down with indigenous people, people in the tribal community of India, you'll start to understand where we come from. And we don't get confused that suddenly what house you stay, what life you have is determining your material needs, are determining who you are. In the old days in India, if you had to ask a question of a person in India, what is the most important thing in life? What would they answer? You tell me. What would they answer?
But I
You're
think
all
you would answer living close to their family and providing the family with all the needs that they have.
sure, but there's a principle in the Vedas which talks about moksha. You know, moksha is liberation, nirvana, liberation from samsara, which is a cycle of lives and 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 deaths and rebirths. And so moksha or nirvana is rising above the cesspool of your mind, which is about attachments, desires, ego, cravings. And going from this, what Mandela said to me, the most difficult journey he had in life was from the mind to the heart, because this is where the soul sits. The soul of your humanity sits here, and that is in the heart. It's pure, it's forgiving, it's compassionate. It believes that an injury to one is an injury to all. And this is Ubuntu, the spirit of Africa, is I am because we are. I'm a human because you are other humans sitting here. But it's not just humans. I'm a human because the tree is my brother, and the ocean is my mother, and the river is my sister. The stones and the mountains are my grandfathers and grandmothers. You see, this is how we see life. Not seeing life that is just us, and most importantly, just us and our needs. This is what has brought the world to the crisis that we have today, where leaders do not understand what to do. They've lost their imagination. The only thing they know is about power, it's about economy, it's about GDP, it's not about values. Okay?
So much, sir. Your answer is really inspiring.
Thank you. So I would say that, one of the most important things in my life when I was young, 15 years old, I went to listen to a great student revolutionary called Steve Biko. And he was one that taught us, first of all, to be proud of who you are. And he developed a philosophy called Black consciousness. Be proud to be Black. Be proud. Because, even in India, you have racism. The racism of India against dark skinned people. I've had people in my own family saying, oh, but you're very dark. Why don't you, we need someone with lighter skin to marry our child. You see this nonsense. Even in India, you have racism. So if you look at it, Biko said, be proud to be who you are. Be proud of your traditions. Be proud of your faith. But he said that the mind of the oppressed is the main weapon in the hands of those that are oppressing us. Even within your culture, what is the issue of caste? In the old days, it was a choice you made. But then it became, when the people got into power and they became the priests, they said, no, this is hereditary. If you're born a Dalit, you must die a Dalit. That's nonsense. That's worse than apartheid, because all of you look the same. I went to villages, and once I went to a village in India, and I went with a Dalit leader, and he took me to a village where a lot of children were malnourished. And I said, wow, which children here are Dalit? And he said, the whole village is Dalit, because the real village where the clinic is very long way from here. And when we go to try and get to the clinic, you said they tell us we should not be there because they don't want to see us there because we're untouchables. Even today in India, there's racism. And so you see how things can be taken, a cultural practice is taken and distorted in order to become unfair, discriminatory, racist almost. In all our societies, you all are young people that must stand up and say, no, we are all created equal. You cut my skin and we all bleed red. No one is more important because of the color of their skin. It's such nonsense. And the reason why we have racism today is because when Europe decided they want to colonize the world and steal and plunder and commit genocide in our countries, they needed it to be that we were savages and they were coming to educate us and they were coming to make us more sophisticated. They came here to do the same thing they're doing today: exploit, plunder, extract. And that's what we have to stop. And now we have corporates that are not just from Europe, but from all over the world that are doing the same thing. And yeah, they'll give you a good job if you get good grades, but the majority of people will still be exploited. Their communities will be disrupted. Their lands will be stolen from them. So it's a very big responsibility you'll have on your shoulders to be strong, to look at solutions, to be compassionate, to be full of love, even for those that hate what we are talking about, to convince them that they're wrong, because within each human being is a pure soul. They don't know it by doing a lot of wrong things, but every one of us has a pure soul. It's just that they don't know that they have a soul. So this is the work we have to do to bring devotion and faith, not religion, devotion and faith, which is belief that we are part of nature, that we are part of everyone, that you are equal to me, I'm equal to the animals that are there, and they have the same rights that we have, and that we are here to all share what Mother Earth does for us. No one is more important than someone else. That's the way we're going to build a new world, to stop the wars and to start building peace from the bottom up. When we do not elect leaders that want to just fight wars, and when people are hungry just to make big aeroplanes and big missiles and big bombs that cost hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, when there are people that have no education in the world, people that are hungry in the world, people that are poor in the world. We should not be talking about making wars. We should be talking how do we work together to solve the problems of the world. This is what we need from you.
Sir, after all, the world is all but a big, huge family, like the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Exactly, exactly. So I think that, for me, the world is just one little planet. If you just look at our solar system, it's the Milky Way. There are millions of planets. So I think we got to learn to be more humble about what we think we know. Because the technology we know might seem very sophisticated to us, but to other higher forms of intelligence from other places, we are very primitive, actually. And so we should not use technology to harm anyone, to harm each other, to harm nature, to harm another religion, to harm another culture, to harm other people. We must use the technology as a revolution like we are doing today, because we are sharing our opinions. But it's just my opinion. You don't have to take everything I say as the truth. It is my truth, but it's not the only truth in the room. You got to understand that. When you go into a meeting, you must always have the humility to say, I'm here to learn, I'm here to listen before I speak. You take a real leader like a Mandela. When he came out of prison on the day he was released after 27 years, many people arrived at the prison. I was the first one there, and I was talking to him, and then people started to arrive, and there was a big debate about where should he speak first. For 27 years, he was on Robben Island near Cape Town. But the big struggle of our people was in Soweto near Johannesburg. So there were a lot of people that said, no, our first speech, you must go to the place where the big uprising started, where students were murdered. 1,000 students were murdered for standing up and saying no to apartheid. And then after a while, he listened and he listened. For hours, he was listening. The whole world is waiting for him to come out of prison, but we were having a conversation. Do you know what he was doing? He was making sure people had tea, they had biscuits, they had a cake. And then he listened for 3-4 hours. He was listening to everyone's opinion. And then he said, you know what? I've listened to you all. Cape Town has been my home for 27 years. This is where I've stayed, not voluntarily, but it was my home. 27 years I was in jail here. And he said, this is where I'll make the first speech. And that's the first place he made it, in Cape Town. And he said in Cape Town, I have stood against white domination, but I've also stood against black domination. And it's something I will stand for till the day I die. So we must be against all forms of domination, all forms of racism, sexism, anti-cultural way, anti-homophobic, people that are homophobic, like some of the leaders we have in this world. Everyone comes here unique. You learn to accept them. As long as there's respect between all of us. If we had greater respect for each other, we wouldn't have racism. If there was greater respect that the person that decides that the sexual orientation is that of a person that is homosexual or a lesbian, that's their right. You can't take their right away from them. Same thing. If you have a language, you have a spiritual belief system, you have a religion, no one can come and convert you. That's what you're born with. You made the choice, your spirit. Then you have people going to convert someone. But my spirit chose to come into this family that practices Christianity. So, what? You want to come and change my religion now? Why? Do you think your religion is more important than my religion? So all of these religions are different roads to the same thing. At the end of all these roads of all these religions, there's only one God. And it doesn't even look like us. It doesn't exist like us. It exists as an energy, a frequency of energy. And that's what keeps us alive, keeps our spirit alive. A body without a spirit is a zombie.
Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Mandela's words truly reminded me that, freedom isn't just political. It's about how the equality in us and how we treat each one another. So I would like to go to the next question that before this very podcast, before this very conversation, we had to read a lot about you to understand you and to ask the right questions to you because honestly, sir, you're a wonderful identity and we are really, inspired to talk about you and listen to your experiences. So, you've had such a remarkable journey, and from the grassroots of activism to serving in President Mandela's first cabinet, how did that transition feel for you? From moving from leading moments on the ground to shaping change within the government itself?
Well, that's a really important question. I wish I had the answer to it. I never wanted to go into government. President Mandela insisted I must come into government. In fact, the first position he offered me was to be labor minister. And I said, no, I don't want to be labor minister because I was a labor leader. And I didn't want to be put in a position where people say I'm doing things because I was a labor leader in the past. So I chose to do reconstruction development, a program I led in the union movement to say what will replace apartheid. And what we did is develop the reconstruction and development program, which was a program about addressing the legacy of apartheid, a system that 87% of the land was stolen from our people and they were deprived of land. And when you don't have land, there's not much you can do. Land is really important, especially in India or any part of Africa. And when you take people out of the land, you're really disempowering them and you're making sure that they live in poverty and they're dependent on you. So we have to do that. And so, yes, I agreed to go into government. I led that program. But, a lot of things that I would have liked to see happen didn't happen. And one of the reasons was that people that I fought with, when we had power, it changed them. You see this all over the world. Someone is fighting to become the president of the country and he talks about what the people need and how he's going to or she is going to help, but usually it's a he who's going to help everyone. But ultimately, when they had got the power and they got all the luxury cars and they're sitting in the palace and they've got all the money they can earn and they go wherever they go, there's blue light, you know, convoys behind them, and they lose touch with people. And when you lose touch with people, you start to believe your own propaganda in your own mind. Then you start to listen to people that really have come close to you because they think they can benefit. And so you lose the voice of the people. See, Gandhi never did that. Mandela never did that, you know, and Martin Luther King never did that. So you got to think about when you get to power. I realized that once you're in government, it's a very difficult thing. There are many different ideas, and suddenly you find that people that you are working with think differently to you. And so I decided, you know what, my job is finished in government. I only served one term with Mandela, and I said, no, government is not for me. I must go back to the grassroots. And that's when I went and I got involved in a campaign against malnutrition in the world. I started to build the movements for young African leaders called Africans Rising across Africa. I started to go and visit a lot of indigenous people in the Amazon, in India, in Africa, and I started to learn more about what I had missed and not understood properly. And that's why I come back to this. And I think the biggest mistake I made was not understanding that spirituality is different from religion. Because, the white people of South Africa use the Bible to say, in the Bible, it says, we are the promised people and you should serve us. And they try to make us slaves under apartheid. But I think I realized today that political parties actually will always have one goal: how to stay in power. That's the reality. Then they forget why they're there, and then they start to believe their own propaganda, and then they start to believe that they're gods. Like, you understand, when you study in school, you understand feudalism, where the nobility thought the king thought he was a representative of God. That's nonsense. No one's a representative of God here. We each have a direct connection with God. God is me. God is inside of me. If I take the oak tree or the outside my house here, that could be God to me. It is God. So everything is God. No, you don't tell me that you are my God, or I need you to talk to God. It doesn't exist. That's how they trapped us. So when we understand spirituality, it's different from the rituals of religion. Then you understand, actually, you don't need a temple. You don't need the church. You are it itself. So if you try to understand, one day there was a story in the mythology of India, and a king decided that he wants to build the biggest temple for Lord Shiva. And so he built this tremendously beautiful golden temple. And then he invited Lord Shiva, who said he was busy, he had to go and inaugurate another temple. And the king was so angry that he went and sent his troops all over the kingdom to find out who is this person Lord Shiva is going to be going to inaugurate the temple. And eventually they found a man sitting in a hut, and he was praying. And when they went in, they said, are you the person who's building a temple for Lord Shiva? And he says, yes. And Lord Shiva has agreed to come and inaugurate it. So where's the temple? He said, the temple is in my heart. You see? When you want to find God, you got to find him inside. It's not outside. Okay? If you want to understand life, you have to go inside. You can't find it outside. You can't find it in Twitter and TikTok. It don't talk to you about God. Eh? It talk to you about lots of things that are not relevant, actually. And so I think today's generation mustn't look at the technology as God. It's a tool that can be used to mobilize people. It does not replace talking to people face to face. This does not replace going in the ground, sitting with people, breaking bread with them, understanding their hardships, empathizing with them, living with them. Don't take one day you go, one day I'm going to go visit the slum in Mumbai and therefore I know everything about slums. You don't know anything about slums. The most important lesson must shut mouth when you go in a community and listen with the heart, not the head.
Exactly, and that is the thing which is missing in modern day politics. And I also read an article written by you which said that youth abstention is the biggest problem in politics right now. So, how would you solve that?
So I think that in the last election, and remember, I'm still alive, and for me, I know people who died fighting for the right to have this vote. Many of my comrades died. Many people sacrificed their lives, jobs to win this freedom. We have a beautiful constitution, but it's on a piece of paper, just like India. It's on a piece of paper. Nigeria is the same. Do they follow the law? Do they follow the constitution? No. So if you start to look at that, for me, what's really important is that it must be a living experience of people. When young people were going to the last election last year, you're right, 40%, that means 4 out of 10, that means 2 out of 5 people did not even register to vote, did not pitch up at the vote. So 40% of the people, mainly young people, did not vote. That election is not democracy. Okay? It's shameful. It's a vote of no confidence in the leaders that stood for the election. But they don't listen to that. Rather than being very humble and going back to the people and asking them why you didn't vote, please, what have we done wrong? They continue to do wrong things. And the biggest wrong thing they do is to steal money that is meant to deal with poverty or create jobs for young people or give quality education, quality health. They have stolen to enrich their families. This is the problem with politics today in the world. Look at the biggest country in the world, United States. The only thing that interests them is money, how they can be a superpower. We do not need a policeman in the world. We do not need a naked emperor in the world to tell us what we are. We don't need someone sending missiles and bombs and assassinating people when he's the head of state. So this is where we lose our humanity. And in spite of the whole world being against what Israel is doing in Gaza, they still continue to do it. Kill people. It's unacceptable to me and to the vast majority of people. I don't want to see any child killed, whether it's an Israeli child or a Palestinian child, or an Indian child or a Nigerian child. It is wrong. It can never be right to kill a child, to kill an innocent person. If you want to fight a war, go and fight on a battlefield. Bomb a school, bomb a hospital. This is genocide. And we thought we had ended genocides in our world. So this is the leadership we have in the world, why you all need to stand up and talk your truth. I was 15 years old when I stood up and said, I am not prepared to accept the fact that someone thinks because of the color of my skin, they can tell me what to do. What Steve Biko said to me, we have nothing to lose but our chains. Because if you believe in reincarnation, I'm going to come back. I'm going to close one door, open another door. I'll still come back and I'll fight for dignity, for social cohesion, for compassion, for social justice. That's the reason why we live. I've lived an exciting life. I continue to live an exciting life. So I have fun. I'm not sitting in a corner upset with someone. So what's your next questions now?
So you said in countries a lot of people don't vote, so that's not real democracy. So you've been the first general secretary of WOSATU. You gave ordinary workers a platform for protest. So how did you unite the workers in, for the struggle?
Now, before Sir answers, let's take a quick look at what COSATU is, also pronounced as COSATU. The Congress of South African Trade Unions, or COSATU, is South Africa's largest trade union federation, formed in 1985. It brings together millions of workers from different sectors to fight for fair labor practices, equality, and social justice.
Well, the important thing is find a message. What is your message? You see, in South Africa, after many, many hundreds of years of fighting against colonization and apartheid, we realized that our message had to capture the imagination of the world. And all we said is that we are fighting for one person, one vote in a democratic, non-racial, non-sexist South Africa. Take everything we're doing and put it in one sentence. Then if you were a student like me, then you will fight for the right of education. You're going to organize communities. But if you were outside the world, like India was the first country that imposed sanctions on South Africa because of apartheid in 1948. This was Prime Minister Nehru. And India was the first country to say we want nothing to do with apartheid. See, they took action. And then millions of people around the world could do something. They would go and protest. They will not buy anything from South Africa, oranges. If you had to go to the supermarket, you'll choose oranges from Argentina rather than from South Africa, or oranges from Spain. So you had choice. So millions of people were in solidarity with us, and it was very important. So that's how we do. In workers, it was the same thing. African workers weren't allowed to join unions in 1979, and then we forced them to change the law. And they tried to change it a little bit, but they wanted to keep the power with them, and we fought them, and eventually we won the right for African workers to join trade unions and to participate in collective bargaining. And we built a powerful movement of millions of people that was able to stop apartheid, because we were in the factories and the shops and mines. They couldn't come inside the mines and close it down. You see, that's where we built united, we built power, but we said, now release our leaders like Nelson Mandela and sit around the table and negotiate. So that's how you do it. You got to capture the imagination of people, but you got to show, you got to be a role model. You can't, dress in suits and think you want to go talk in the slums about how we must organize ourselves. People won't listen to you. You can't go and talk to them if you don't understand their language. So there are many things you got to learn, and most importantly, you got to stop being who you think you are. You got to become part of the community and how people live and think and work in those communities until you build trust. When people lose trust, they stop participating. That's why young people are not interested in politics, because political parties have destroyed politics. Because you have bosses in political parties, you have bosses in trade unions, we have bosses in NGOs, rather than people who are there as servant leaders.
Yes, sir. So honestly, again, very inspiring. Hearing you talk about the unity and understanding people's language really struck to me. I feel like our generation, with so many people, they want to speak up. As you know, we've seen Nepal has been getting a lot of Gen Z protest about inequality, about climate, about justice. But I feel that a problem that we all face is that we often don't know how to put out our voice and how to make our voices matter. From everything you've lived through, what do you think it really takes for young people today to build that same kind of courage and collective power that changed your generation?
All change is individual. The decision you make to be part of building something new, of building a new world, building a new movement, and building a new way of looking at life is an individual choice. You make the choice. You are three individuals and made a choice that you want to contribute towards building a better world. But when you meet each other, you find others. So once you go out and try and do it, you'll find many others. You found me, you found many others. So what happens? We all get together. It's like water. It falls from the sky. It's a drop. But the drop accumulates on the mountains usually, and it forms little rivulets, and then it becomes streams, and then it becomes rivers, and then it becomes, the ocean. But when it reaches the ocean, it's not a river anymore. It's not a drop of water. It is the ocean. Similar thing. When you go out and you express an idea, you're going to find others that agree with you. And if you can persuade them that this is important in spite of the danger, then then you suddenly got a group. And then once you have 4 people, and those 4 people going to talk to 4 other people, then what do you have? You know, you have suddenly 16 people, and then 16 people talk to another 4 people, you start to grow. It's like a mycelium. What you've got to understand is that each one of you is like a boat in an armada of hope and opportunity. This is being revolutionary now, and not revolutionary in war, revolutionary in your thinking. When you form an armada of hope, then suddenly you have many boats. Yeah, someone can take out one boat, but then many other boats can replace it. And you're all going in one direction. You may stop at different destinations. It's like the flotilla that is going towards Palestine today. They're going to stop it, but it doesn't matter whether they stopped it. The whole world is talking about it. And the whole world, millions of people are standing up and saying, no, not in our name. Even many millions of Jewish people are standing up and saying, not in my name will we kill babies and we will assassinate people. So you suddenly start to see how change comes. It becomes a movement, and it can grow across Twitter and Facebook and TikTok. And even when they try to restrict us, it still grows even bigger. Look at those millions of people marching all around Europe saying, not in our name. No government is going to send bombs to bomb Palestinian children anymore. So you start to see this is the way it happens. But you've got to take a stand and say, I stand for this. And hopefully you stand for justice, you stand for fairness, you stand for the end of war, you stand for peace, you stand for compassion, forgiveness, and everything that the greatest leaders that we've ever had in the world, including Nelson Mandela, believed in. That's why billions of people know who Nelson Mandela is. You'll learn about him in school, I'm sure. All over the world, when you talk about the leader we respect, we talk of a Mandela. Okay? We don't talk about some of the other leaders that we have in the world today. So anyway, I think that the most important thing for you all as young people, and my advice, I was prepared to die for freedom. The question I have for you all is, what are you prepared to live for? What is the change you're prepared to bring in yourself, in your family, in your community, and in the world? And that's my last message to you beautiful group of people that I've enjoyed my conversation very much with. So thank you so much. It's beautiful. Now go out and change the world. Become the change, as Gandhi said, become the change you want to see in the world.
Thank you so much, Mr. Naidu, for sharing your wisdom, your stories, and your spirit with us. It's been truly inspiring hearing from someone who's lived through the various changes and continues to spark it. We've seen the fire in you, and we're truly enlightened by everything you have talked to us. And before we end, if you could just leave our generation with one line, one mantra that keeps you going every single day, what would it be?
Find joy in your life and then spread that joy to others.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. And I hope this was a useful conversation to all of you all and those that will watch it. But it's my honor to be with you all, and thank you for caring.
Thank you very much, sir, for not just sharing your story, but your heart with us. From the cabinet table to the global stage, and now back to the grassroots. Your journey reminds us that leadership is not just about titles, it's about service. And to our listeners, we hope this conversation left you today with more than just knowledge. We hope it left you with courage. If you were moved by this conversation, please share about it and talk about it. And most importantly, act upon it. Change, as Mr. Jay Naidu reminded us, begins with each of us. Thank you very much, sir, once again.
Thank you so much.